My friends, today we're looking at forbidden places in GoldenEye 007. Places you truly cannot go because the game unloads you from the mission into the start menu if you try. So, how did we manage to get there and explore these strange places? Well, I found this ancient Gameshark code from the early days, which I turned on in my EverDrive, the No Endings code, which allows you to explore the unloading zones in the game. And I want to share with you today all the strange and unusual things I found in these zones, which may endow us with new knowledge in GoldenEye 007 after all these years. But before we get into that, a word from our friends today at Opera GX. Opera GX is a special version of the Opera browser built specifically for gamers. It's also available on mobile and can be connected to your desktop so you can keep your tabs and browsing all together. A great feature it has is being able to log into social media channels like Facebook Messenger, Telegram, WhatsApp, Discord, Twitch, integrated right into the sidebar, so you can just quickly see who messaged you or who's live on Twitch and keep browsing without tabbing out like a true pro. The GX player lets you keep your favorite music streaming services in one place. You can log into Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube Music directly from the sidebar and just play it from there. And whenever you start streaming video or audio in your browser tabs, the GX player automatically pauses and then automatically resumes once the tab is finished playing. So it's perfect for those gaming sessions, listening to podcasts while scrolling for memes and good times. It's highly customizable too. The accents in Opera GX have this great vaporwave aesthetic. In fact, there's even a layout called Vaporwave, and you can customize the browser with themes, wallpapers, and colors as you wish. The GX Corner is useful for any gamer, showing you the best deals, newest releases, and breaking gaming news all in one easily accessible place. You can easily switch between platforms and also see the upcoming games in the release calendar. And remember, there's also GX Mobile to bring your browsing power anywhere you go. So check it out now by downloading Opera GX on your device with the link in the description. You won't regret it, baby. Thanks, Opera GX. And now on to the rest of our video. So what exactly is this No Endings Gameshark code? Well, it prevents the level from ever unloading or despawning, and it really messes with the game in strange ways, but it also allows us to explore places which would normally be impossible to explore, completely inaccessible because the level would usually fade you out. Now, on some stages, this isn't too interesting as you finish in a lift or a small room, and there's not too much to explore, but on other levels, the traditional exit area is a massive, unfamiliar space where few have ever ventured. A forbidden zone that only those with the right tools and knowledge could ever access. And so in this video, we're exploring some of those spaces. And on a couple of the stages we explore today, I brought on a special guest to have a second look because they were just so truly bizarre. So I hope you enjoy, get comfy, sit back, and here we go. So the first level I had in mind to check out was Statue, because Statue is very well known for this large, expansive back area where the helicopter and flight recorder are located the whole time you play the level. They're located back here, waiting to be activated later on, and they get activated when you speak with Trevelyan. And so it was always a mystery to us, like, if you could get to the flight recorder, could you pick it up? And what really surprised me is that the answer seems to be no. If you are back behind the gate where the helicopter and flight recorder are this whole time, you still cannot pick up the flight recorder, which is pretty insane that they programmed that to be that way. We can see the sort of hitbox of the helicopter is kind of like very jagged, and so it can be tough to get close enough to the flight recorder to pick it up. But even if you could, like, there undoubtedly were close enough to pick it up, and it just does not pick up. I also noticed right about now that the guards don't spawn, like they stop spawning once you get back there, which I find really interesting as well. It's like once you've crossed the threshold of what should be the exit, the guards no longer spawn, Usually you would have a pair of tan uniformed KF7 guards chasing after you, but they're simply not here. I did find it interesting how Valentin still speaks with you, though. I guess he's always loaded when you go to start the level, and so he doesn't despawn or anything. It just seems like new spawns don't come along. And even we can see Objective A completes, which I found quite notable and interesting. And so it seems at this point like the level is probably going to continue as intended, although the no KF7 spawns, did kind of interest me at this point. But then when I got to the big statue here, I noticed there was no leg spike, and Trevelyan and his friends are not showing up to continue the stage. And that part is really interesting, because I was hoping that you could play through the stage as kind of intended, and then see if the flight recorder would get launched into the level as it usually does. But it just seems like once you've crossed that exit threshold, even if the no exits Gameshark cheat is turned on, and so you can get into those zones without despawning, it seems once you cross that threshold, no new guards or NPCs spawn on the level, and that includes Trevelyan. And so that means there's no way to progress through the mission. You can only complete Objective A, talk to Valentin, and none of the other objectives. And we can see once we get back to the start that the helicopter and the flight recorder are still here, and there's still no way to pick up the flight recorder. And yeah, it just really debunks a sort of interesting or theoretical thought we used to have. You could see the flight recorder out here with the sniper on. If you put on all guns and looked out here with the sniper, you could see the helicopter and the flight recorder. I'm just noticing how it says Euro Chopper there. It's kind of funny. I've literally never noticed that before, so that's kind of cool. And it was sort of imagined, what if you could get the flight recorder somehow early? Like, could this break the level? And no, it just seems that any attempt to break the level with the no exits Gameshark cheat ends up breaking the flight recorder instead. So another level I wanted to check out was Archives, because there is this very apparent area outside the Archives where usually the level fades out here, but it's sort of the beginning of the Streets stage. And it's sort of one of the most intuitive, advancements between levels. You leave the Archives, you're on the Streets. And so now we can be out here and we're hanging out, and it's just one little alley. There's not too much to it. But you can see that you can sort of break the glass from from outside. But that was interesting there because you actually sort of jump back in, you warp back in through the upstairs. Even if the downstairs glass is broken, you still, when you re-enter, it still takes you in from upstairs, which I found very strange. At this point, I try to go to get Natalia and see if she'll come outside with us. It's also funny how the shadows there show these sort of window panes, even though the window's broken. And you see guards are seeing me through the exit of the stage and shooting at me, but I can't see them this way. And it seems as though Natalia simply does not actually exit the stage on the Archives. Of course, in the cutscene, if we complete the mission, we will see her there. But she does not actually. I was expecting her to jump out of that window there and come visit us outside here, but it's simply not the case. She just hangs out in here and she doesn't progress any further. I found this interesting too because I figured, okay, let's try the other windows and see if we can jump back up. And on the furthest window, we cannot. You don't jump back up. On the first window, it's not even a warp. It's like it's as simple as walking in. So then I try the middle window. And this one, you can also just walk right up, which I found really strange and interesting. Here we go, walking right up. Same on the first window. But not on the last window, and that is just so strange. I figure let's go through the downstairs area and just, make sure that things work the same way. And even though I just left that window, I don't get back through it, and then when I try to re-enter the second or first windows, it takes me up to the second floor. And I really wonder why that is. It doesn't seem to make any sense. You know, why it wouldn't just let you re-enter from the main floor. Obviously, this was not something that was, you know, programmed or intended in the game, but it is such a strange, unintended consequence of being able to exit the level without it fading out. Okay, I definitely want to try Train because the ending of Train traditionally, you just run past a sort of threshold on the train, and then once you've run past that marker, the level fades out like a couple seconds later. And so often you'll just keep running, or you can just kind of sit still. Once you cross the line, the level will fade out. But I figured, like, what's beyond that point where it usually fades out? Like, just how far can you get? And as it turns out, the answer is you can get quite far. I was quite surprised. So I noticed over this way that something just seemed kind of off. Like, you could see more of the skybox than usual. And it made me kind of realize that, like, it seems as though the draw distance on a lot of objects, like, doesn't really... It's much smaller with this Gameshark code on. Like, usually you'd see mountains on the left there instead of, like, so much sky. So the mountains don't get drawn in as well. And now here we are. Usually the level would be fading out and you can't get past here. But you can really go quite a far distance. Like, they really added in a lot of extra land and train tracks here, which I thought was pretty interesting. You know, I'm still strafing. Finally I get to the end of the tracks. And I kind of wait here for Natalia, and she takes quite a while to show up. See, I got impatient, I started running towards her, but we found her, and she's run all the way to the end of the train. And so now I'm just going to forward strafe, up-sea strafe, to see just how far away we are from the train itself. And I mean, it's quite a considerable distance. You know, we're still strafing, still going, and there finally is the train. Like, that's way more than needed. I guess with turbo mode, you can make it kind of far, but they really programmed in a lot more than needed just to be safe, I guess. And you can see there's the draw distance snapping in and out of the sort of upper train tunnel. So I go back on the train and something here shocked me. Trevelyan is still there. The metal curtain does not go up. You know, in our liminal spaces video, I talked about how you get behind the curtain with walk-through doors on, but as it turns out, with no exits on, you can also, just the curtain doesn't come down at all, so you can get right in here. And Trevelyan is still here, which is really amazing. Like, I was not expecting that. And presumably Xenia would still be there too, but, you know, she passed away when I was freeing Natalia. And I'm trying to go here and see if I can maybe back up Trevelyan into the, you know, secret room behind the train. But it is on the agent difficulty here, so he passes away pretty quickly. And here Natalia has come and joined me on the train again. She just follows you around at the end of the train mission, wherever you go. Once you crack the boundary of the laser grate, she'll just follow you wherever, slowly but surely. Alright, so I was really shocked to see Trevelyan stay in the back of the train and not fade out with this Gameshark code on. And Xenia would probably do the same, but, you know, I passed her away in the previous clip, and so I thought, what if I put enemy health to 1,000? You know, so they can be backed up by shooting them in the feet and whatnot. How and what kind of strange things can I do, you know, in the back rooms of train here with Trevelyan and Xenia, and I want to explore that. And so I also decided I was going to show our pal PerfectAce, and he's seeing this for the first time. So let's take a look.
Yeah, what instantly comes to mind is if you can do anything with Oromov or Natalia with 100 or 1,000% health.
So you'll actually see when I get there, I do pass away Oromov, because I just want to progress the sort of end of the stage. Natalia is interesting because even if you look away for a couple frames, she always wants to returned to her spawn right by the console. And actually, I played around a little bit with Natalia on this clip, but I realized she just returns quickly to the console, and so I just didn't play around anymore, but I'm sure there's lots of things you could try. I found it interesting how those two ZMG guards even came out of the back of train, because this messes with so many flags or whatever that I thought that might not happen. But yeah, we can see here now, these two just don't spawn away when they usually would, and the big metal barrier would usually come up here. And so I decided what I was going to try is to try to get Xenia and Trevelyan in this, you know, strange secret back room of train. And so Xenia turned around there when I looked away, which was kind of weird, although not entirely unexpected from the way NPCs behave in this game sometimes.
I was gonna wonder if he even moves at all. That's interesting. Not surprising, but
Yeah, and I think actually when I shot Xenia, she didn't say her usual line of like, you know, Alec, I'm hurt. And that's probably because she might only be able to say that line like, you know, within a certain time range of Oromov being shot or something like that.
it would be insane if you could strafe these out like you do with Val.
No, totally, and I do actually kind of wonder, you know, if I were to try this again, I would maybe try to get them to back up that way, outside of the train. You know, that might be really weird. If you could laser off the locks, and then back them up, turn them around, and back them up through the exit.
Yeah. Then imagine you had some way of triggering this no ending code. Obviously that would be a lot more complicated, but then you open up an even higher number of possibilities.
Yeah, if you could toggle it on or off and mess around like this and then turn it back on to try to convince the game to finish normally, that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, if you got Trev in the outro cinema, for example.
Yeah, if you backed the two of them up to that point and then completed the level and they were both standing there, that would be really insane. Yeah, I was trying initially to back them up to the door on the left, but I just kind of figured this wall was making it too complicated, so I kind of gave up on that. And I think here's where I decide to try to back up Natalia, but after a couple of attempts and I, inadvertently look away, I remember that she just always warps right back to the computer.
Yeah, it's the same as Control.
I'm always amazed by how quickly she warps back. You just look away for even a few frames.
I don't expect it to make a difference, but have you tried shooting her computer, obviously with her in sight, while you're backing her up?
No, that is a great possibility. I think here she warped back. I just looked away briefly. I went to open the door so she could get through. I mean, you could probably do it if you were more careful, but yeah, I didn't do it there. And then it's a good point about the computer, because if the computer's broken, I think she stops working at it, and so that might prevent her from warping around.
Yeah, I wonder what she does. I think she just stands there if you destroy the computer. She says something, but I don't think she goes anywhere.
No, it's a good point, and perhaps we'll find out, but that was, this extra train footage that I recorded here and wanted to take a look at. So the depot was a level I wanted to check out, and you may think, oh, you just run onto the train on the end and the level fades out, and that is true. But it actually turned out to be quite unusual what happens here at the end of Depot. So keep in mind that usually, once you press B to open the train door, you get objective A completed on screen, or whatever objective it is on the difficulty, showing that you've located Trevelyan's train. However, in this case, I noticed that by pressing B at the door, no objective came up, and that's very strange. Again, it must have something to do with the loading zones getting canceled. And look, there was this extra component of the train area, which is there's sort of 3 rooms back here. There's the main one that you see when you beat the level conventionally, like fair enough, this is where the end cutscene is. Then there's this bonus one here. That's just this little compartment. And then if you really push your way in here, you can't advance through here, but it does seem to unload the other areas of the train. And you just are in this sort of, corridor between trains, shooting to blank sky. Yeah, here I'm going to go back and forth between the two. And I definitely just find it so interesting how, it was probably not necessary to make this sort of extra room here, even though it's all kind of the same Caboose compartment. But I found it just very interesting how they added all these extra, this kind of space. And like, the wall to the left of me there was not loaded at all. Like, it certainly wasn't needed for the visual effect of completing the level and, that cutscene. But it's just so interesting to see the bits and pieces that are made and are unmade here. So next up, I wanted to explore the end of Dam because, of course, why not? Traditionally at the end of Dam, you bungee jump off the large dam. And so it will be very unusual for anyone to see what is below the dam. But I believe there's some sort of interesting and notable stuff down there. I also noticed that with this Gameshark code on, these buttons do not display the red or green signal to open or unlock or close. I found that very strange. Why would removing the unloading zones on each level affect the buttons in that way? It just seems very unusual. So here we are at the end of the dam, and we are bungee jumping off. And it is interesting because you kind of get stuck halfway down. I feel like the level usually fades out after that. And then you sort of get stuck in these sort of staggered steps. But if you keep going, you can actually make it all the way down, which is really crazy. See, I keep stepping forward and kind of stopping, getting hung up. There we go. We landed. You don't take any fall damage, of course, because it wasn't programmed into the game. And we're here on this little platform, and we can see that there's this sort of grate, which presumably leads us to the facility. I was also shooting these rocket launchers, which I kind of eventually noticed that all the mountains are solidly loaded. You would think with mountains way off in the distance that they would be sort of just unloaded visuals. But this really made me realize that, no, the full mountain was solidly programmed into the level, and that likely explains why the level's so laggy at the end here. It's such a laggy level, which is sort of the bane of anyone trying to get Dam 52 or Dam SA 115, and it kind of makes sense. It was the first level, they spent a ton of time programming it, and so it makes sense why they really carved out the whole shape of the mountains. But it's amazing to see the rocket launcher take a couple seconds to land on the solid mountain, probably a solid mile or so away. It's pretty amazing. And you can see there's the grate again. It's quite fascinating. And I figured, based on what I know about Aztec and the big void jump there, that you could probably warp up the dam. And it seems to be exactly true. You can just warp back up, which looks really insane. You do get stuck here for a second. You can overcome it and just warp right back up. But yeah, quite remarkable warping up and down the dam. Here I am noticing again how the steps to jump off the dam are not centered. Something I only learned for the first time last year, which blew my mind. I wanted to take a second look at the dam ending, so once again, here's me showing this area to PerfectAce for the first time. Yeah, the bottom of the sky. So dam, you actually can get down to the bottom of the dam. And there's just this platform down here.
Oh yeah, I remember I even asked you about this. Or commentated, yeah. It just didn't occur to me that you actually had a no ending cheat on.
Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise the level spawns out. And then you can warp up here. You just like warp back up.
What the hell?
I know, it looks so crazy. Yeah.
I was literally just gonna say, how epic would it be if you had like a moon jump cheat to like get back up there?
Oh yeah. No, literally it's just like, I figured like Aztec, void warp, or whatever you call it, like you could probably get back up and you
That's
can.
insane.
Yeah. So basically...
Wait, so can you walk on the ledge there? Like
okay,
go back up?
so what happens is, it's almost like the dam is like kind of a step ladder down. So what happens is this, right? I'm gonna step off, I fall down only a little bit. Now the normal level would despawn you there. But, it's no big deal here, right? Because there's no ending. Then I press top C, up C. Oh, the guard's trolling me. Let me see. It's like if I just keep pressing top C slightly, I'll just go down like 1 or 2 more steps each time. So there's like I'm a little bit down. Top C again, a little bit more down.
Yeah, that is so like you wonder why it's been programmed this way.
Totally. Yeah, it's so weird to get all the way, and it doesn't look like I'm falling that far down, but each time I look back up, I'm way further down.
I wonder if have you noticed sometimes when you fall off the dam, it seems as though you get stuck on one of these levels of height.
You definitely do, and I'm sure that happens on most, if not all, dam speedruns.
Probably to do with this, or the speed with which you move out or something.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely the speed and angle that you move out, because I mean, it looks like I'm barely moving down, yet you fall so far down the face of the dam. And of course, we simply have to go explore Cradle, and this is probably the most unusual end of stage we're going to see. There are some levels where there's really kind of no ending area, like Aztec and Egypt just kind of fade out once you've completed certain objectives. Runway's kind of similar, but the levels where there's kind of nothing new, it's made up for and then some here on Cradle, which is super, super unusual. I noticed Trevelyan doesn't even run to activate the console with this cheat turned on. And then you think, yep, you can just hop right off here to the bottom of the Arecibo Cradle, and you are just floating in space. And I kind of realized pretty quickly that you can actually run almost towards these pillars where you start the mission. Not quite all the way to them. And even more interesting is, unlike Dam, they're not solidly loaded. The rockets go right through them. And so that kind of shows the difference of, when they were making the game, how they learned to, put memory towards things that are needed as opposed to not needed, like the Dam mountains. But you have all this massive space down here, basically the entire footprint of the Cradle, give or take, where you can just run around and roam freely, and I found that so fascinating. And this image here looks, so surreal. And as you'll see, guards do follow you down here, which is kind of hilarious, kind of surreal, just very, very strange and unusual to say the least. But the thing is, as we'll realize, this cheat or Gameshark code does seem to have the effect of not allowing any more guards on the stage to spawn. We can see the rocket is actually hitting up there. That part is still loaded, but a lot of the rest of the level is not. And so as a result, only 3 guards start spawning on this stage, and I've already passed away 2. So we're pretty much done with the guards on the stage here. We can see the little You know, there's his ZMG lying on the, you know, floor of the cradle, and there's the third and final guard who's found his way down here. And so no more guards spawn for whatever reason. This code prevents additional guards from spawning. And so we're just stuck down here with no one, and it's, you know, pretty liminal, to say the least, pretty strange. Something out of some sort of purgatorial dream, or perhaps vision. Not a pleasant place, not something you want to see in your wildest imagination. A floating skybox. You can't tell the floor from the horizon. It's just so bizarre. Well, there we have it, exploring the forbidden, unusual, rarely seen places in GoldenEye 007 with the No Exits Gameshark code. The more I explored with it, the more I realized I only had scratched the surface of this all, so if you enjoyed and want to see more, do let me know, and perhaps we can cook something up. In the meantime, thanks for watching, my friends, stay true, and I'll see you in the next stream or video.